Hello everyone, welcome back to Push Square, your number one destination for all things PlayStation. My name is Aaron and today we are here to get into all the nitty gritty details of God of War Ragnarok. It's been a couple of weeks since the launch, so hopefully you've had the time to see yourself through the campaign because we're going to get into all manner of spoilers. But I am not alone because I am in fact joined by a good friend and fellow content creator, Dorrani Williams from 100% Crit. Thanks for joining me today, man.
Thanks for having me. You good? Are you okay? How's things?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. I've been actually really looking forward to chat about this because I feel like I completed the game and then I was just kind of done. There was a review period which was very spoiler free and very vague, so I'm quite looking forward to getting into all of those details. So you gave Ragnarok a 10, I gave Ragnarok a 10. All the lads here at Push Square gave it a 10 as well, so this has easily placed itself among some of the best PlayStation has to offer, and we've seen that come through in the sales as well, because Ragnarok's already the fastest selling PlayStation title in history with 5.1 million units sold in its first week. But obviously we're not here to talk about sales figures, it's just just hitting big time in the charts. So yeah, of course this is your spoiler warning, I suppose. We're just going to get into it all, and I'll start off by just saying or asking, like, what were your biggest surprises with the game? Like, what were you expecting when you first went into it?
I was expecting greatness and I got greatness, but the biggest surprise was probably playing as Atreus, because when, of course, God of War is shot in one take, and when it was doing Atreus' cutscene just before you start playing as him, when it got to you being able to control him, I was like looking at the screen for like 5 seconds, like, am I going to play as Atreus now? And that was probably my biggest surprise initially. That, I think that is amazing. Atreus is crazy to play as. He's so fast. It reminds me of the transition from, like, in The Last of Us, playing as Joel being like Kratos, and then Ellie and Atreus, like how they're fast, they're nimble. And I think at the end of it, I ended up enjoying Atreus more than I did Kratos, to be honest.
Oh, really?
So, yeah. How about you?
Yeah, so I had the same kind of feeling when you cut away to him, he's hiding behind the window, and it goes out there, and I was thinking, oh, that's interesting, because it's really the first proper time we've had the single take perspective leave Kratos, because it's very much just you're seeing what he sees and that's really all it is, and then we're going outside of his perspective. So it did kind of come across my mind where I was like, oh, that's a little interesting. Okay. And then when it does, I mean, PlayStation love that, going from a cutscene smoothly into gameplay in a really natural way where you're just like, oh wait, now I can take control. And it was that was, I think, your first big like departure in this game, because your opening hours, maybe up until that point, I would say you are very much like, this is very God of War.
Yeah.
This is kind of the same experience as what we've had, and this was the first point where it goes, nah, we've got some other things to show you here.
Yeah, and I think that's a credit to their cinematography team, like how they're handling the cameras, because it was so seamless. I was like, ooh, okay, how they handle the back and forth, when you really look at it, the transitions, they're so creative. I was like, oh my God, this is insane right now, because it tricks your mind. It tricks your mind with these transitions, and you're like, okay, who am I going to be playing as now? Yeah,
I think as well, like narratively, it works really, really well in the sense that you started to see, all right, Atreus is growing up, he's doing his own thing, because that was one of the biggest pushes or the biggest wedges between these characters in a way, like Atreus trying to be his own person, and Kratos not really being like super cool with that to start, having them keep those secrets. And it's something you even see from the very beginning of the game. I think Atreus has one of those little orbs, and you see him like quickly hide it away as Kratos comes up. So that I did really enjoy that. I don't think I liked his gameplay quite as much. I think
really,
I just loved the variety of Kratos' gameplay when it came to like whipping out the chains or the blades, you know, and then back to the axe for the heavy hits. And I did like how fast it felt. And I think he was there for like just the right amount of time. Because if we spent too much time on him, I maybe would have been like, oh, here's another gameplay section with this. But something to kind of go from that I really enjoyed about those segments when you were playing as Atreus and he was separate from Kratos and you're going back to Kratos, was mixing up the partners.
The companions?
Yeah, the companions.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Who was your favourite?
I mean, Thor
is the only
I really liked Freya.
correct answer.
I really liked...
No.
Wait, who would you say?
Thor is 100%. I think he's the best companion because when he's just picking up Atreus and just launching himself into the air and he's like, can you let me know when you're going to do that? And then they even address that when he does it again and Atreus is ready for it the second time when Thor grabs him and jumps. He's like, hey, this is a lot more enjoyable when I know it's coming sort of vibe. I love that sort of stuff because I think Thor is that character. Their depiction of Thor is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, some of the performances in this were just like insane. And Thor's, I think, Ryan Hurst doing what he did with the amount of time he was... Because I think I really did expect Thor to be in this more than he was. But he was one of those characters where it was all about the balance of like how much you put him in it and overexposure in a way. Because whenever he was in it, it was like you were hanging on every word that he said. In the like talking about that part when you're playing and he's your companion, and it was kind of like you have one of the most powerful guys in this universe beside you, but like he was being kind of like sassy in a way where he was just like not up for helping you sometimes and like being cheeky to you, and like so there was reasons why you couldn't just be like, Thor, go and decimate all these people for me and solve this for me. So that...
Well, we did kill his sons.
Yeah.
So it's understandable why he's a bit like, I don't really like you guys.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, that was something I think they done so well, was like building off of like what happened in the first game with like seeing where we pick up some of these characters, whether they were in the first game or not. Like, even though... Like from the very beginning, one of my biggest surprises was just from the very get, Thor and Odin turning up at their house. I was like, oh, we're going for this like right now, because like whole of the 2018 game, you're teasing and you're kind of building up the image of Thor and Odin, and then just right away in Ragnarok, they're there. So like
immediately,
and they just felt so like natural in a way, and already you had context to these characters and history, even though you've never met. Which I thought was great, and having that mix of going from the big brooding muscle of Thor, and then having Richard Schiff's Odin as well. I thought Odin was just so good in this. I love the idea of like coming into Ragnarok fully assuming and just fully being like, Thor is the villain, but then he isn't really, and they start to delve into that. But with Odin, to me, it was like Odin's character was just all about kind of subverting how you were supposed to feel about him, because you have characters telling you throughout the entirety of the 2018 game, the entirety of Ragnarok, this guy is a big arsehole, nobody likes him, he's a horrible person, but then like anytime you see him, it's kind of conflicting with that. And I did spend almost the majority of the game being like, right, but when's the thing? When's he gonna like snap?
When's he gonna flip?
So...
What did you think of the flip?
So yeah, like going on to that, it was done in a like not in a way that I expected, and it took me a little bit to really understand like the ramifications for what had happened. So obviously in the game, you're banding together with the guys, you're talking about going up against Odin and starting Ragnarok pretty much, and it turns out that Tyr, who's been your companion this entire time, has actually been Odin, posing as him, and he knows everything, and then he kills Brock, who, because having only 3/4 of his soul, can't go into the afterlife, can't be brought back to life.
Not again.
So yeah, not again. So that bit, I remember being like, oh shit, that's not Tyr, but then taking a wee second to be like, oh wait, does that mean that Tyr was never alive? We can get into some.
But, okay, so you've 100% of the game, right? So you've seen everything. So I heard that Tyr's actually still alive. If you go back to Tyr's prison, he's still there. Like he's like the normal Tyr's there. Is that correct?
Yes. So this was one of the things that really pushed me on to go for the platinum to 100% this game, because I was just like, all right, we'll start doing some of the side content. I wasn't quite ready to be done with it, but I'm not a big platinum trophy hunter, so I was like, I'll see how it goes. This was one of the earliest side missions I'd done because I was just kind of going through some of the Asgard realms, and it's in Niflheim where you collect the Ravens chests. And all of a sudden you see this thing, you're like, oh cool, it's an Asgardian prison, I'll go for there, and you're just doing your usual stuff, fighting some enemies. You get to the bottom and there's Tyr. And it was one of those side quests where I was like, I actually gasped. I was so shocked by it. And the fact that it was something you can completely miss. It just, it was, that was kind of the thing that I was like, oh right, okay, I need to get through this game because it'll be hiding more stuff. And I mean, talking about some other side places, there was like Vanaheim. There was an entire new section to Vanaheim that you don't really come across. At least I didn't throughout the campaign. And then that's got this whole cool backstory into Faye and Thor and their fight together. You know, the whole side to Kratos' wife that he didn't know. All of the side content for me was just kind of filling in those blanks and expanding the world again. And it felt so like rich with the lore in a way that a lot of games just
These
don't.
aren't your average fetch quests. These are like full-fledged stories that support the main story.
Yeah, it just done that in a really smart way that just I really didn't mind just sifting through it because I was finding out more about these characters, and because you have characters like Freya and Mimir who have got like history together and they know about certain things and they're asking, you know, questions about some of the stuff that you're coming across and explaining it. It's just so fun. It was so good.
Definitely.
Good to do all that
I think
stuff.
it's like it's wicked how once the game's over, it's not over.
Oh, yeah.
It's not finished. And even with the when the cutscenes roll, right? You see Kratos do what does he do when he's looking at the mural? Like when the first credits roll. And after that section, when you come back out at Midgard, I'd switched the game off. I was like, okay, I've completed it. I can relax for a little bit. And then I came back the next day to, bang out some quests. And then I went to Brock's funeral. And then the actual credits rolled. And I was like, oh my God, this is like still going. There's still more. And I was just like, which one did they intend to actually be the end of the game? Because I think the first one, what happens at Brock's funeral feels so important. Because even I messaged you when that happened. I was like, what, dude? Like, people are going to miss this. People are going to miss this. But it really does, as a whole, just looping back to the side quests and putting in more time, it really does reward you for continuing on. And like you said, it fills in so many of the blanks. But the thing is, they're not even blanks. It just gives you more on top. Like, the story that they're telling, there's not really things that are missing per se, but they're just adding more and more, giving you more context to what is actually happening. And I love that.
Oh, yeah. And one of the things that I kept thinking about was that a lot of the side stuff that I was doing, you could do at one point in the game with Atreus, or when I done it with Freya. And I was just wondering, like, what differences in dialogue would you have had if you had a completely different character with you, that especially with it being Vanaheim being her like her home realm, that as well just had kind of piqued my interest, like the amount of detail and stuff that they've put into this game, considering you could have done majority of these quests with a completely different character. But to bring it back to some of the story stuff, what did you think of Atreus and Kratos' relationship in this game? Like, advancing from the father, boy.
I think this is some serious character progression. There's certain ways that I think the easy way to do it in video games is just like, make them stronger. That's how they would show character progression. But they chose the narrative approach and made Kratos so much softer. No, not so much softer, because he's still this guy just trying to pull blood from a stone, getting this guy to smile. But he even laughs at one point. Like, it's not like a big chuckle, but you
have like the odd smirk in the game.
Yeah, and that sort of stuff coming from him being this angry, always upset sort of guy, to now actually showing emotions, and he's a man of few words. So now he's actually speaking. He's trying to understand things as well. One bit that I knew, I was like, okay, this is character progression. When you are trying to free the, oh my God, what are they called? The giant, what are they called? Half-goofaloofs?
Half-goofers.
The half-goofers. When you're trying to free the half-goofers, and Atreus is saying to you, like, why are you here? Like, why are we doing this side quest right now? Why are we doing this? And then Mimir says, have you just considered that he just wants to spend time with you? Like that sort of stuff. I'm like, my God, this game is getting so incredible. And another scene that really got me was when Atreus comes back from Asgard. And he comes back to home, which is the world tree, Sindri's and Brock's crib. And the big fight's happening and Freya's trying to close the portal. And Kratos says, what do I call you?
Oh, yeah.
To Atreus. And Atreus is standing there like, why is my father asking me this question? And he just like, he's overcome with emotions and he goes in for the hug. That scene broke me, mate. That scene broke me, but it really shows how far these guys have come along. But Kratos, he's figuring out who he is because he's been this person, but it's like, who does he want to be now? He's seen prophecies. Atreus, he's doing coming of age stories with all of his, especially the Ironwood section. That was very divisive, polarizing, which I've seen online. But I think that part is necessary. You would feel it if it wasn't there. Like things wouldn't make sense as much, but the progression as a whole, the dynamic between them, they've come a really long way.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the guys at Push Square, we've been talking about how, you know, back in the original trilogy, you're having a caricature of a man who's just like, I'm like sad about things that have happened and what I've done, and I hate all these gods, so I'm going to kill them all. Yeah. That was about really as far as it needed to go in those games, but like bringing it here, like seeing. Like the bit for me that really rang home was when they're together, they've been through Helheim together, and they're sitting down and then I can't remember the specifics of it, but they were kind of talking about this, you know, thinking like Kratos would try and think like Atreus would try and think like Kratos, and then Kratos apologizes to him for something and he says, don't be sorry father, be better. And he just gives him a wee smirk, and you know that way, like it's almost like you feel proud for your own boy, you know? And it was you're right as well, like seeing Kratos being kind of open to the idea, like I care for this boy so much that I'm, you know, he's going and doing things that he wouldn't necessarily like do in his own time. He's just willing to take that kind of leap of faith because of this character. I thought that was just so good. And then seeing Kratos in a way get that happy ending, the thing that two parts. One bit that I'll just get to jump into the end, when he sees the mural and it shows that he can be a god that is actually worshipped and loved, and that's something he's never considered, not something he's never been within his reach. That really hit me, because you see his face and his reaction. It's just like a life he would have never assumed possible for him, and it just and a lot of that was due to Atreus. I think he owes a lot of that to Atreus.
His reaction, like, it was so fitting.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, because it's like he's breaking down, like upon realizing, like, okay, I can be better. I can actually be this worshipped god. But it's like him trying to refrain from showing emotions, but still. So it's like he's like battling with himself to stay tough, but also just be human and let that natural reaction happen. And I thought that was really,
and I think it's also like his entire perception of God's completely crumbling before him, because he's always just been like, there's no point in praising gods. Gods are false idols, and all of this has been like his whole thing. And then through not just like what he's been doing with Atreus, but also what, you know, people like Freya have been doing, or Freyr. Is that his name?
Freya.
You know, seeing
Freya,
seeing what those other gods have been capable of with their kind of power and notoriety, like then realize, you know, it just felt like a full circle moment when he realized, like gods can be good and I can be a good god. Yeah, that was some good stuff. What did you think about seeing Faye in this? Finally, we saw the flashbacks to his wife. Took me ages to realise it was Deborah Ann Wolfe of Daredevil fame.
Yes. Seeing her, I think like it just filled in some of the stuff from 2018, right? It's just like, okay, yeah, this is the woman I love.
Yeah.
This is our wife now, you know? Because of course, like the immersion in this game, like you feel like you are Kratos. So yeah, it was nice to see. I didn't think anything like too much of that part. Sorry if that's not the answer that you wanted for that part. But honestly, it's just like, yeah. And I think it helps soften him up. Like overall, it helps soften him up because no one can speak to Kratos with any sort of attitude because they know that he will kill them. But to see Faye like speak to him any way she wants because they know like this is actual love. Like I can speak to you anyway. But to see that dynamic was really good though. But everything else is like,
yeah. I think it was nice just because for a lot of the 2018 game, I kind of was like, oh, what would that look like? How does Kratos look like being kind of vulnerable with a person? And it was the fact that he just kind of let her tell him stuff and talk about things and say, you know, you need to do this and you need to that or whatever, you know, like in terms of like his viewpoint of his son and all of this. And it just made him seem, I don't know, it was like he was just sitting there learning from her in a way that I really liked. Yeah. But seeing that, the bit that got me was just when she was going on about, you know, to grieve fully, it means you've loved deeply or something like that. And it was just, I don't know, there was like something about the way that also as a little mini subplot throughout this, he's also still really grieving the loss of his wife. And it's kind of something that I think you would maybe even forget about that character. Just like that he's always got that thing and like a person, like a big hole in his life, and he's now has Atreus to fill that up. And the other characters within the game, you know, Brock and Sindri, I thought were so like amazing in this game. The fact that I think we'd spoken about the fact that they take what is basically like a little joke in the first game where it's like, oh, Sindri's a neat freak and Brock's the complete opposite. But then it's like, nah, he is a neat freak because he still feels the hands of like the souls of the dead pulling at him because he took the souls of his brother from the Lake of Souls. I loved that. It had like a real tragedy to it, and seeing him like come out and just being like so not him, absolutely caked in like muck and dirt and blood, and seeing his hairy arms and stuff, you know, like I remember just being like, this is just kind of a nice like level of character progression as well for that, and also showing that some of the things do have consequences.
Their family dynamic, I think family is like a big part of God of War Ragnarok's overall themes, and them playing just the uncle roles alongside with Mimir also, like is incredible. Like exactly how you think like uncles would be, that is exactly what it is. Like you've experienced, I think that's a common theme for God of War, is that you can place yourself into a lot of these scenarios for yourself, and because you would have had these experiences. Same thing with coming of age with Atreus, Brock and Sindri, and Mimir having that father figure who's not your father just to speak to, and they're bantering you, sharing advice and imparting their wisdom. And even Kratos and Faye, like that sort of stuff, a lot of guys love to be this angry, grumbly person, but to have that feminine touch soften you up into mush. Doesn't matter how tough you are, that sort of Hulk and Black Widow sort of dynamic, you know what I mean? The sun's getting real low, big guy, you know what I mean? Like come that, like that sort of stuff. Yeah, so I just wanted to speak about that family dynamic.
Yeah, I think you're totally right with that. And I loved the bits like see here and Kratos call Mimir brother at the very beginning of the game, and just I loved in all the ways, that's what I was trying to get at to start, like in all the ways that it felt like a proper sequel. We're like starting at the midpoint of this story because you have characters that already have half developed relationships, and it's not like a restart in a way and a reintroduction. It just felt like a really natural evolution and continuation of that, which I really, really loved. Yeah. But
if you take a shot every time the word brother is said in God of War Ragnarok, you will die. You will die. Take a shot.
You never finish the game. You never finish it. It'd be blackout. What did you think of the Draupnir spear as the third weapon of this game?
Incredible. I feel like you knew it was coming though, because just the way the game's designed with the puzzles, it's like, okay, I can.
You see things, and you're like, what is that?
Yeah, but yeah, the drop near spear, I didn't like it at first. Like, as combat wise, I didn't like it, but once you put some levels into that bad boy, I was spearing. Oh, it was it's so good, and the animations of Kratos stabbing someone, but the spear's still in there,
and you got another one,
he's just manifesting a new one. It's like, like, it works so well. I didn't like it at first, but I really grew to love it towards the end. In the final mission, I'm sure we'll speak about that in a moment, but the final mission, that's the only thing I used towards the end. And of course, killing Heimdall with it, the Heimdall fight. Oh my God. We'll get to it. Go on.
So I think I was kind of the same. Didn't really like it all that much to start. Did you expect Mjolnir to be the new weapon? Because I'd kind of crossed my mind. I was like, with Thor's hammer seems like the natural kind of thing you would get in the game. I'm glad ultimately that they didn't, because I saw like an interview with Eric Williams, the director, saying that, oh no, we like, it felt expected, so we went with with the drop near spear. But I could imagine like some people were maybe a little disappointed with that. I'm not sure. Like, how would you have felt?
It's too easy.
Yeah,
it would have been too easy.
Similar.
And I think natural. To what was you gonna say?
Too similar to the axe as well.
Yeah, because they were made to like be one in the same, right? That was the whole thing. They behave in almost the same way. It would have been too similar, I think, to, you know, Captain America picking up Thor's hammer. It's like, no, we've seen this before, and that was a moment in itself, and I don't think it would have had the same effect. But when you're fighting Thor. I love, for a brief moment, Kratos catches Mjolnir, and it like, because we know it's like, who only those who are worthy can pick it up, right? All that sort of stuff. And he catches it. I'm like, oh my God, Kratos is worthy. He can actually wield this if he wanted to.
I think as well, like when you look at the speed levels of combat, you've got the slowest one being the Leviathan axe, Blades of Chaos being in the middle, and then the drop near spears, like your quickest little one. And I think you get put off by how little damage it does to start, but like you're saying, once you get it upgraded, you toss like 8 of those bad boys in it, somebody hit whole triangle, slam it down, and it just peppers their health bar. It's so it was so fun like that. I really enjoyed it, and like you're saying, towards the end of the game, I was just using that an awful lot. So let's get on to the end. And what did you think of like the spectacle and all of this, or like the big fights when it came to actually Ragnarok's happening right now?
So there's a lot to say here, because there's the music from you arrive, the music just goes in. The music just starts going off, right? It's so, the only word to use is epic. I think epic is like epic, and that's epic. It's one of those missions. I feel like it is a lot longer than people realize, but it really sucks you in. If you pause the game, if anyone's out there listening and they paused the game from the start of that Asgard section, I don't know how you done it, because I was so immersed. I was like, we need to do this. We need to get going. And just that whole, you running through combat section, little bit of story, combat section, combat, boss, combat. I loved it. It was just going off, and then all of like the characters coming in. I did think Ragnarok, like the actual being Ragnarok, was a bit like, was this a bit of a wasted opportunity? But as a whole, the lead up to, even after Thor, all the way up until Odin, amazing, man.
Yeah,
I really liked it.
The emotional high I was getting off of when you go to Tyr's temple, the teleportation, the realm travel room, and then you blow Galahorn, and it's just like, the music is going off on one, and just all the doors start opening. That like you're saying, I was like, I don't care how long this takes, I need to see this through. I'm not stopping. I was fully like leaning in towards the television screen. I was like gripping my controller. There was just, it was so all encompassing, and just such a good way, like, for something that is very that was just like more, like, not to say just more combat, but like you were so invested in the story that you'd be like, oh no, here's like a couple of like centaurs I need to beat. I'll fight my way through them quickly. And it's like you're just so like, you yourself are like, I need to rush to the wall. I need to get to that wall because this character's relying on me and that character's relying on me. And to speak on Ragnarok, like it was Sutra, I liked that they played with the prophecies, because that was one of my big things that I had like going into this game, in terms of like, what would there be a post game? Because Ragnarok in the mythology is the end of everything, right? But then not really, because it starts again. There's like a new age with like supposedly the new age without gods. I have a video describing all that if you want to check it out. But but like I liked how they played with that, and then it was like Ragnarok just didn't, like you're saying, like wasn't really there because they didn't match up the two, so they didn't fulfill that part of what was supposed to be the prophecy. It couldn't work out, and then this is what I'm curious to see. What did you think of Thor's death? Because that is one of the things I can imagine some people not being too happy with, because they kind of advertised it in a way, or at least knowing what the game was about and what was coming. In my mind, I was like, this is going to be Thor versus Kratos, the showdown. You know, there's going to be a few fights throughout with that opening fight, which is what, just quick shout out to that bit where he kills you and brings you back to life.
My God.
I think I said to you before, recording like a few weeks ago, one of the barometers for me of like a good game is when it makes me like say something, like when I'm sitting on my own in my room playing these games and I physically, like I vocalize my entertainment, my enjoyment. That's a sign. And that was a bit where you're just like, oh my God.
Yeah, go and watch the reactions.
They're great.
Like the Twitch compilations. That scene, I was like, is this guy really this strong? Did I just get battered this easily? And he's like, I'm not finished with you. And he's like,
Yeah, that
is so good.
Yeah. Oh, that was amazing. But what did you think of that then? Like the conclusion to Thor?
I understand why it happened that way, because it helps everyone unite to who needs to die here, really, because Thor was on the verge of sort of, you know, coming around to being a better person. Like he's, you know, trying to be better, and Odin's just like, nah, man, you're a little man. I don't really like you. What do you mean you're gonna? Do you know who these guys are? Like these are the bad guys here, and you're gonna go against all of this stuff and take their side, because that's what he was coming around to. But for Odin to then, you know, strike his own son, strike against his own son, it's like, oh.
I think since it like came across as like the way that Kratos got to him was like, we need to be better for our children. That again, like kind of playing into the whole generation, like trying to flip it in a way, because like a lot of the thing they were talking about in the last game was like Atreus is like, is this just how it always goes with fathers killing sons and sons killing fathers when it comes to gods? And I liked that it was like this kind of turn, and it kind of made it heartbreaking in a way, like seeing him kind of reach out to her and fading away like that, I thought was quite tragic. But I did like that finally we got to see at that point like how powerful Odin could be, because he does, like I was saying, like he's playing it off as this casual, like he's just some old guy that you know he knows some stuff and he's wanting to investigate things, and then like to have him like have this big betrayal like the entire time. Of course he didn't trust Atreus. He's been spying on him this entire time and playing into his expectations of who he can be and all this, and then just like hitting out that boss fight when you're doing the QTE with Kratos, Freya and Atreus. I
didn't think it got better than the God of War 2018 when you kill Baldur
with the arrows from the dragon.
I didn't think it would get any better than that, and it just got better. I was like, oh my goodness. Like, there's certain moments, like you said, in that game, like that section, that one part, oh my God, it was just the icing on the cake. You know when you're pressing the buttons like in perfect rhythm and you're feeling it, you're like, I'm trying to, you know, I'm excited about it when I can't get my words out, but yes.
It was one of those ones as well, like part of the reason why I ended up just pushing on with the side content, where I was just like, I came out of it on like such a high, I was like, I'm not ready to be done with this game, because it was. I was like, I've been kind of humming and hawing about whether to say it's like among my like top 5 of all time, but for me, like, I'm genuinely thinking in terms, I usually rate it like how emotionally invested do I get, how much do I feel when I'm playing the games, because that's something that these big hitting, especially PlayStation exclusives, are all about these days. It's not like, sometimes it's obviously mixing in with the mechanics and what you do, but like for me, it's just like, how do you feel when you're playing this? And this game like had such a range of emotions, from making you feel incredibly powerful to really sad and emotional to then, you know, feeling the intimidation with some of the other characters.
Even your own main character. So I can just add something there. The intimidation of your own character, because when you're playing as Atreus, right, and you're trying to go back home, and he yes, the bit with the door, I'm telling you, the immersion levels. Because I said to myself, oh, when Kratos comes through as you're about to go through, I went, I'm in trouble. I am in trouble here. I am in so much trouble right now. I'm about to be grounded. Oh my God, like that sort of stuff. Yeah.
I remember just like kind of raised my eyebrows like, oh no. Here he is. He's not going to be happy. Do you think it kind of rounded everything? Like, are you satisfied if this is like it for the Norse stuff? I know it is, but like, would you need more, or do you think it's like it's nicely done in the two games?
I'm happy for them to progress. I'm happy for them to keep it moving. I think they've displayed, Sony Santa Monica, like how they can be trusted. They can just be trusted to realize whatever vision that they have, because they've done it back to back now. So I think whatever they do, even if they stay here for the next 3 games, I'm sure they'll think of something that makes sense. By the way, you said you were like hesitant to put it in your top 5. I don't think you should be. If there's any game that is sort of deserving of, like, there's so many reasons why this game goes into people's top lists, because it's so well-rounded. The combat's amazing. The narrative is complex enough for this more cerebral players. It's simple enough for the more casual. The combat has the simplicity of you just pressing R1, R2, but it also has all of you can perfect it with the mods and the different gear, and you know what I mean? It somehow works for every single player, and I think that's a big thing. Yeah,
and it did as well, like, find a balance between what I think, you know, when you think of like the storytelling in something like The Last of Us, and you're talking about these kind of smaller moments that aren't quite, it was kind of like a artsy character piece, but also a blockbuster movie at the same time. And it found that balance so well, where I was just getting like entertained on like every kind of level that I could have expected. And it did like blow all my expectations away, because this was the most excited I've been for a game since The Last of Us Part 2, to be honest. I think it's the only one where I was like counting down the days, fitting in the replay of the 2018 game, because I was like, I need to be ready for this. I think it will go down as like one of the greats. It has to, like you're saying, it does just fire off on all kind of levels. And it's like one of those, like, I would always like more. I think they'd have it in them, but I'm glad to see, I really respected the fact that Santa Monica Studios just said, this is it for the Norse trilogy. Like, we're doing 1, we're doing 2, and then like we don't need to stretch it out beyond there. I would be intrigued to see how they could do it beyond, like, like you're saying, in the other kind of mythologies. But I don't know if we need it, to be honest. I'm really happy with how it rounded out Kratos and all of that. So I'm just happy as it stands. But I think we could probably call it a day there when it comes to it.
I have so much more to say. But this video would be 3 hours long.
But yeah, thank you everyone for watching. I'd love to see some of your spoilerific thoughts on Ragnarok down in the comments. And when you're down there, give the video a like if you enjoyed it. And if you'd like to see more PlayStation content, subscribe to us here on Push Square. I'd like to thank Dorrani for coming in with his gaming wisdom. Where can the people find you, Dorrani?
Yeah, so everywhere at 100% Crit. It's games, lifestyle, and entertainment. If you like that sort of stuff, you can hear the way I've spoken here on Push Square. My vibe's a bit more casual, it's a bit more freestyle. If you like that sort of stuff, come and find me.
Yeah, it's some really good cracking content. I do like it myself. You know, I actually do watch your stuff as well.
Thanks, man.
Thanks everyone for watching, and I'll catch you next time on Push Square.
See you later, guys.